A quiet bike is a fast bike, or at least just not an annoying bike. In this video, I'm going to show you the common noises that come from your bike and how to silence them. Many pros favour a quiet bike when racing. That's probably so they can hear important things like the sound of their tyres gaining and losing traction in the dirt. It might also be less distracting when they need to focus on the task in hand. For us normal riders, if that isn't important to you, a silent bike still gives us the opportunity to listen out for any noises, which might be telltale signs that there's something wrong with your bike or something that needs a little bit of attention. Rattly cables is probably the most common noise. You'd be surprised how much this really resonates when you're going down a rough trail like this one. The best thing you can do is get a cable tie and tie them together in various places just to stop them from banging together. You can also use maybe some electrical tape, or you can even use a little trick with a washer where you can place the washer between the cables and loop them round with a cable tie. And that's probably the best way to attach them together without the cable ties moving up and down the cables. Another way is to use some shrink wrap. It's kind of a bit of a pro look. Personally, I don't favour it because it's a bit of an effort to put on. It's also a bit of an effort to take off if you need to change anything. If your bike sounds like a bag of spanners falling down a flight of stairs, it's probably a bit of chain slap. Your chain could be hitting your chainstay here, so you just need to protect this and dampen the noise. There's a couple of options out there for you. You can search for chainstay protectors. Sometimes you can purchase a neoprene sleeve that's sort of velcroed around the chainstay, or you can buy things like this VHS tape, which sticks onto the top of the chainstay, much like mine has here, and just provides a bit of sound damping. And a cheap way is to get an old inner tube that you're not using anymore, wrap it around the chainstay and zip tie it on. Another good tip is to get some mastic tape or some rubber tape and just stick that to the top, or even on the underside, because sometimes the chain can come up, and slap it from the underside too. So once you've silenced all the rattles from your cables and your chain, you should be able to focus in on any additional noises that need some attention. Often a good working bike is a silent bike, so it's a good place to start with a really clean bike, particularly a clean drive chain, which can get really noisy when it's mucky or worn, and give your bike a good going over in the work stand, as there are some things that might need a bit of a service. Your suspension should be generally pretty quiet. If you hear a clunking every time you go off a big drop, it might be that you've not got enough air in your suspension and it's bottoming out every time you hit the ground. If you hear that knocking regularly, it might be a sign that they're starting to wear and they might need a good service by a professional. If you hear a scooping noise when you go down and come back out, then it could be time for a lower leg service. It might be a characteristic of some forks, but if they started off silent and then started making a scooping noise, it's a sure sign you need to go and get those checked out. If you hear a ticking noise in your wheel, which is outside of your gears or your normal hub noise, and maybe like a little metal ping, then it could be that you're losing tension in your spokes. This means you're going to have to tighten up your spokes or take it to a bike shop to get it straightened. A good way of identifying if your wheel is out of true is to roll your tyre forward and see if it wobbles from side to side. Noisy brakes are the worst. And there's a couple of reasons why your brakes might squeal or howl or generally sing. It could be due to bad weather if you're riding in the mud or the rain. It could be that your calipers are wonky or out of line. You might even need new pads. And I've actually done a more detailed video on identifying noises from your brakes and how to solve them. And I'll leave that in the description below. And finally, once everything is serviced and working, if there's still any general creaking or a little bit of a grinding noise, maybe even now and then, it's probably a good idea to give your entire bike a bolt check, as things can creak under pressure when you're riding and pedaling. Certainly a good one is a creaky headset, so do make sure that there's no movement in there and that the bearings are greased and well serviced. Hopefully that's given you some ideas on how to silence your bike. As always, if I've missed out a few, then help out the GMBN Tech community by leaving your suggestions down in the comments below.